Okay, welcome to Billy on the Beach at Tallman Beach and Pool Club. We try to spend one night a week together with our interns to teach them whatever it is I know about real estate. Tonight we're going to be going over asset management. Last week we did originations and marketing, and I think that video is somewhere out there on the web or on YouTube. We'll be posting these, so let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about asset management. So what have we learned in the past 3 weeks you've been here? It's easy to originate, right? Excuse me, we're talking due diligence. I apologize. So we're talking about due diligence. It's easy to originate and hard to do due diligence. Now, here's the challenge of any business. Doesn't matter what your business is. You always need, even if you're a one-person shop, you need a origination brain and then you need a due diligence brain. So if the originator says yes to every opportunity they see, right, that's an easy job for them. And if the due diligence person says no to every deal, they'll never do a bad deal, right? So here's the challenge. I can kill any deal, any business opportunity. If I do, I'll never make a living. So the challenge of the due diligence person is within some realm of reasonableness to figure out if this deal makes sense and to verify what the originator was told. So what I told our chief originator today, or reminded him, is literally every single conversation, every single question he asks or she asks of the borrower or the joint venture partner, whatever the case might be, he's got to write down. Because think about what the originator does. Somebody comes in with a business plan, hotel, shopping center, warehouse, new business, whatever it is. The originator is tasked, that person that walks in looking for money has been working on that deal anywhere from 6 months to 6 years. Take that $1 billion project we're looking at. That guy's been working on that deal for 20 years. So the originator has got to decide whether it's worth taking to the next step with less than 5 to 15 hours. So he's got to review 6 months to 6 years worth of stuff in the 5 to 10, 15 hours he spends on the deal. Now the key, as I said with the originator, is you can't spend 15 hours on a deal that's not worthy, which is why you got to do the quick gut check. Does it make sense? Does it feel right? Meet the borrower. And as I said, if he doesn't sign the term sheet, it makes no sense spending 100 hours on it. And as you know, we go through 100 deals to get one signed, right? And then out of every one that's signed, we hope to close them all, but we don't. We only close probably half of the ones that are signed because they don't make it through due diligence. So let's talk about due diligence. The first thing is the handoff from the origination team to the due diligence. You got to get everything out of it. Now, if I had my druthers, but I'd go broke, I'd have the due deal team in the first meeting with the borrower. But since every borrower doesn't sign, I'd be wasting all my due deal team's time. So you can't have the due deal team in there from the beginning. So the originator has got to give a proper download, a proper conveyance of all the information, a proper conveyance of the team, a complete loan application, a signed term sheet. So now what's your job? Well, let's talk about the mundane basics. The first thing you're doing is ordering an appraisal, engineering report, environmental report, and specialty reports, which could include a zoning review, could include, if it's a specialty asset like a resort, bring in a resort consultant, restaurant consultant, manufacturing consultant, etc., etc. So let's talk about the appraisal. Here's the biggest problem in America. If appraisals work correct, and my apologies to all my friends that are appraisers, if appraisals were correct, we wouldn't have had a financial crisis in 2008, 9, and 10, right? Because every bank was supposedly at 75% loan to appraised value. So what happened in 2008? Every appraisal was wrong. Why? Because an appraisal, in its purest sense, first off, is simply a recordation of historical events. It does not predict the future. It does not take into account supply coming on. If there were only 10 houses in the neighborhood available, and all 10 sold for $1 million, and suddenly somebody builds 1,000, it doesn't mean they're going to sell for the same $1 million. Supply has a direct effect, but appraisals don't take that into account. Our federal government, believe it or not, passed a rule that an originator and a due diligence person at a bank, which I can't fathom, are not allowed to talk to their appraiser. That might be the stupidest thing I think I've ever heard in my entire life. I want to talk to my appraiser 10, 20 times. I want to share with them everything I'm thinking. I want to question them. In fact, I don't want them to issue the appraisal because I'm always worried about them issuing it high. I don't want them even issuing the appraisal until I get a chance to give them my input. And not only my input, but you heard me talk about this the other day. The engineering report. 2 buildings are comps, right? One's got the building you're looking at has $1 million of roofing, windows, electric, whatever. And the building they went to appraise is in mint condition. Well, if the appraiser doesn't know that the engineer says there's $1 million of work to get it to the point of being a comp to the other, well, why not share the engineer's opinion? And vice versa. If the engineer knows that the 3 most important comps are in X, Y, and Z condition, the engineer needs to know what it is we're trying to achieve to get value. Now, if you're going to gut a building, that's a whole different story. If you're going to build a new building, different story. But with existing buildings particularly, property condition is critical. So, when you're doing due diligence, you need to communicate with your appraiser. The appraiser has to have the benefit of the environmental and the engineer, which, believe it or not, the federal government, under the current regulations, does not permit the appraiser to talk to the consulting engineer or the environmental company. So, you get your appraisal in finally. The key thing you got to do is you've got to go see the comparables yourself. There are very rarely like-kind comparables. But if you go into a neighborhood where there's 100 houses, all identical, all built the same year, maybe you get a common value. Right? You get that part? But take a community built 20 years ago. They were all built as the identical house. You took care of your roof. He was lazy. He didn't. And he just destroyed the house because he was a party animal. 20 years later, you're all going to have houses in different condition. Yours is in mint, his is medium, and his is a mess. Well, they're obviously all not worth the same. Even though they're the same footage, then you got to take into account, he put brick on his house, he put stucco, which by the way is bad, on his house. Okay, and you left your house as it was, but you maintained your side. So, you got to go look at every comp and research the market yourself. Look at the appraisal process is rather simple. Here's a pair of glasses. I want to sell them to him. He wants to know what they're worth. Well, you go to 10 stores, you look at 10 pair of glasses, all the same, and you make an evaluation. The appraisal is the same, and I don't care if it's a business or a building or a piece of dirt. It's just common sense. But if you're not standing, here's the problem. None of the appraisers go see the comps. Most of these appraisals are done on a computer. Until you touch and feel the comps, touch and feel the asset, you can't make an adjustment.
Let's go. We can go in the.
Because two buildings are the same. One may have a better exposure. One may have a better location. One's in better condition, one's in worse condition. You have to make those analyses yourself. So that's the appraisal. The engineering report. Again, I don't care if we're buying a factory, we're buying a ski resort, we're lending on a condo project, your engineer is key. You have to know what it's going to cost to get to the point you want to get to where you think the value is. In other words, when you go back to the appraisal, you have as is and as completed. So if it's a vacant building, it could be being turned into a factory, it could be being turned into condos. You have as is, which is vacant, and then as improved, right? The consulting engineer tells you what he thinks or she thinks is what it's going to cost to implement that program to get you to a completed product. Now, another thing, engineers, and I love all my engineers, but if an engineer really wants a real number and you're a contractor, right? If an engineer wants a real number, he should take the next step and get a contractor to verify. So you're in the plumbing business, right?
Yeah.
If part of the strategy is to put in new piping, the engineer goes, by the way, watch guys, Frank won't tell you this. He goes like that. Now, by the way, me going like that, I got 37 years in the business. The engineer going like that, he's got 30 years in the business and sees a lot of stuff. But that's the guy who's going to do the plumbing, and he can give you the real number. So again, when you think about these reports, and remember, especially when the industry's busy like it is now, the engineers are giving you their best opinion based on what they know from other projects. In meetings, you may hear me say, who's your GC? Do we have a guaranteed price? Now look at the problem with everything about everything is you can't get a guarantee about nothing. That's, by the way, that's real estate. That's business. Nobody's going to guarantee that you're going to wake up in the morning. Forget about the fact that you're not going to get a guarantee that he's going to repipe that building for $1 million. Now, just as an aside, if 4 plumbers give you a price for $1 million, that means it's worth $1 million. If 3 plumbers give you a price for $1 million and 1 plumber gives you a price for $500,000, what do you think that means it's worth? It's 3 guys are at $1 million, 1 guy's at 500, means the guy at 500 screwed at something up, or doesn't know what he's doing. Or he's sandbagging you to get you in, and then he'll kill you on change orders later. Okay? Good answer. But the very important thing is to have your engineer. Nobody in the business does this. Your construction engineer has got to talk to your appraiser and vice versa. The most important single thing, when I came in the office the other day screaming, that has got to get done, and then you bring into account the environmental. Now, the environmental is just a web of mystery, okay, but it's necessary. I don't care if you're buying anything today, even a single-family home, environmental is a nightmare. Our environmental laws have gotten so out of control. Not only do you need an environmental consultant, you need a consultant to review the consultant. Now, again, go back to what I said about the construction engineer. If we're budgeting $1 million for piping, and he's the engineer, either you or you tell the engineer, call him and get a price. If he tells you $1 million is a good price, then you know that you're in range. Still no guarantee. I mean, the due diligence person's job, by the way, is impossible. 1, it's never done. And 2, there are no guarantees. And you see, like those guys that came in the office the other day, they want to run financial models and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, all that's important, but none of this guarantees anything. The closer you get to the person who's going to do the work or use the asset, think about it. You're going to build a factory to build widgets, right? Wouldn't it be nice to talk to 3 people who are looking for a factory to build a widget? to know what the value is? And wouldn't it be nice to meet with 5 contractors who have previously built widget factories? Still, you're not getting a guarantee, but you're getting closer to the truth. You'll never know the truth until years later when you finish and get paid, hopefully, or make money, right? So environmental trips everybody up. My opinion, really simple. You don't just get the environmental report, and your construction engineer should review the environmental report, which should then be given to the appraiser again. But best to have 1, 2, or 3 environmental contractors give you an actual price on the environmental. Now, recently, our ass got saved on a big deal where we bought the environmental cost cap insurance. For that $100 grand, when we encountered a $2 million problem, the insurance company paid it. So environmental cost cap insurance is exactly what it sounds like. Environmental cost cap insurance. It says that if there's something that wasn't shown in the report, the insurance company will pay for it. The importance and the role of an architect. Again, I don't care what it is you do. Unless it's an existing building that's been operating in an existing use for a decade or more. So for doing renovations, new construction, factory, whatever, additions, you got to get an architect in the loop early. Because they simply got to be able to tell you, is it a variance to do this? Which if you hear the word variance, you pretty much want to run. Or is it as of right? Which means that what the borrower, joint venture partner is proposing complies with zoning. Which means you can walk in the building department and get approved, or you're not subject to the whims of a planning board which is full of neighborhood folks who really don't have anything to do with real estate. Now, another reason you need an architect. I cannot tell you how many times I have seen people come in and say, I have a 90,000 foot building. Only later, and have the appraiser appraise it as a 90,000 foot building. Only to find out after you close it was an 80,000 foot building. Now, should you have a ruler yourself and measure it? Yes. But generally speaking, if the borrower comes in with a set of plans, and even the borrower's architect would be wrong, if plans say 100,000 feet, you need a third party to verify the footage. Because if the footage is wrong, then the appraisal's wrong. If the footage is wrong, then the projections are wrong. Market research, do your own market research, know which way trends are going, track building permits. You're going into a town that's got an abundance of building permits, you got to understand you're coming into an oversupply. You're going to a market that's got an anemic amount of building permits, and you know that you're going to have product in a market that has no product. That's what you always want. When you're going into a neighborhood, the best thing to do is be the consumer. Particularly on apartments, office, retail, right? Make believe you're opening a store. Make believe you're looking for office space. Make believe you're looking for an apartment. Make believe you're looking for a house. The great thing about real estate agents, they'll show you stuff forever. Now, you kind of got to be a little bit in disguise. You don't want to say, I'm here to do market research, because then you're wasting their time. But you don't waste anybody's time in life, because down the road, maybe you'll throw them a piece of business, right? And also remember, doing due diligence, you're doing marketing. You're always doing marketing. No matter where you are in the food chain, you're doing marketing. You meet that real estate agent who's showing you apartments. He may have a client who needs money or a partner, right? But the easiest way to learn the business, to research and be ahead of your appraiser, is take a weekend. When I was your guys' ages, pretty much every Saturday or Sunday, I would shop. You just go shop. Today I'm going to make believe I'm a lawyer looking for an office. Tomorrow I'm going to make believe I'm a manufacturer looking for a manufacturing facility. I'm going to make believe I'm in the widget business looking for a warehouse to store it. And it's really that simple. That's how you'll teach yourself what market values are. You have to combine it with building permits.
No, you don't.
Building permits are the most important thing to track. Okay, so we've gone through appraisal, environmental, and construction engineering. Then you got your specialty items. Depending on what it is, if it's a hotel, factory, resort, ski resort, beach club, there are specialists for every asset. You know, when you're doing condos, office, retail, generally easy stuff. As you know, we do a lot of specialty stuff, right? In fact, we're pretty much, as you know, we're doing that beach club now in Seaside Heights. We're pretty much an expert in beach clubs because we built this and been running this for 3 years. So we'd be qualified to give an opinion on beach club management and on the P&L, right? So whenever we have something that's outside of the norm, which since we're running away from condos and office and retail, specialty consultants, you got to find, you got to dig. It's not like they're out there. Like if you looked up ski resort consultants, there ain't a lot of them, but they're out there. You just got to find them, right? So, and again, same thing. Everybody's got to know everybody. The problem with due diligence, particularly at banks, and thank God we're not a bank, is the most logical thing, which is every consultant talks to everybody. They don't permit. So we're allowed to do that, so that's what we want to be doing. Then you got your projections. Look, really simple. If you think it's going to cost this, or if you think it's going to cost this, assume it's going to cost that. If you think it's going to be worth this, assume it's going to be worth that. Okay, really simple. Do one time because nobody gets it. Because everybody wants to model, and all these models do is if I play with, you know, when I started, you used a pencil and paper. So nobody lied to themselves because you couldn't just hit delete and go, let me play with that number again. In fact, you had to use an eraser, right? Today, everybody said, okay, if I make revenue go up by 1% every week and costs go down by 1% every week, look, I get rich down here, right? The model Y, right? That's why I always tell you, if you can't fit it on a post-it, it's bullshit. Because at the end of the day, there's only 2 numbers that matter, right? What's your cost and what's it worth? And by the way, when you drill down past that, there's only like 4 numbers that matter past that. What are you buying it for? What are you spending on it? And what are the associated costs with that? Interest, insurance, carry, etc. But when you go to any factory, construction project, there's only really 1 number that matters, construction. Because after you buy the property, that's a fixed number. Your interest rate may float, but it's pretty much fixed. The variable's always construction. What it's worth when you're done is a factor of a lot of different things. How well did you do? How well did you promote it? And by the way, think about this, going back to the appraisal. And you can't even figure this out. But you can put some sprinkles on it. If I build the most beautiful place in the world, and I got nothing in my advertising budget, and nobody shows up, I may have been on budget, I may have done what I said. Now, go in the other extreme, the guy builds the most beautiful place in the world, or a girl builds it, and overspends on advertising. You know, so, by the way, they're going to go over budget, but have more revenues. Somewhere in the middle is always the norm. So nobody even talks about the value of marketing the product. You know, we see a lot of these starchitects, right? So a building designed by a starchitect, I think it's been proven, sells for 5, 10, 15% more than the same building 1 block away done by a no-name architect. Now, one of the problems is they tend to spend more. So the question is, are you spending 5% more to get 15% more? But these are all things you've got to take into and factor into your projection.
What's a starchitect?
Starchitect is a famous architect. Okay. They call them starchitects. So, in reviewing the borrower's projections, I always say don't look at them. do your own first, then look at it. Most people will tell you that's not the way to go, but as you guys know, being with me for a few weeks now, we kind of roll our own way. The next thing is the team, okay? Now, if you're on a big construction job, you can spend your whole life going through the team. You definitely need to know who the key players are. Who's your borrower, joint venture partner's architect? Who's their engineer? Who's their lawyer? Who's their accountant? Who's their general contractor? Preferably on any construction job, there are a couple of key people you need to know. Who's the plumber, because you can't get a CO without the plumber, and who's the electrician. In fact, I always joke, the plumber and the electrician own the building until the day you get a CO. Because without them, you can't get a CO, and it's not like you can fire them that easy. Because nobody just says, oh, sure, I'll take over his work, because they don't know what's behind the wall, right? So, drilling down and vetting the team will also tell you something about your joint venture partner or borrower. It'll tell you, and it's just common sense. Is he competent? Did he hire an architect to design an apartment building, but he's never done an apartment building, right? So, you want to vet the team. Now, by the way, like anything else in life, you give me a shitty team with a great idea, they never get to the finish line. You give me a shitty idea with a great team, they got a shot. Of course, you want the preference would be a good idea with a spectacular team. That's what you're looking for. Now, as you get to the conclusion of due diligence, you got to kind of ring a bell if you haven't killed the deal yet. Because, by the way, you're never ever done with due diligence. In fact, asset management, which we'll be going over next week, is simply a continuation of due diligence. So, when you're getting what you think is 3/4 through and you haven't killed the deal yet, you must get either a face-to-face or a conference call with your appraiser, your engineer, your environmental consultant, and your attorneys. Because everybody's got to know what everybody's findings are. You got to be able to share your findings. And then you're going to get closer to saying yes or no. Because remember, in due diligence, at the end of the day, you're the one that decides, do we buy this company? Do we make this loan? Do we buy this property? Do we joint venture with this company? You are the last, absolute last person in the loop before the money gets spent. And once the money is funded, that's it. You're pregnant. It's go time. And the same thing. You then need to be prepared to do the proper turnover to the asset manager. So let's talk about legal. The lawyers tend to operate in a vacuum. But let's say one of the key things in an exit strategy, and you all know what an exit strategy is now, that's how you get me my money back. If they're going to agree to get the property sold in 1 year, well, then they got to start marketing it when? Not in month 11, not in month 10, right? You're going to have to start marketing in month 3 to hire the broker, put the brochure out in month 6, take offers by month 9 in order to sell by month 12. Well, if that's your exit strategy and your lawyer does not know that, then your loan documents or your joint venture agreement is not going to mirror what your findings were in due diligence. Everything you find in due diligence has got to get conveyed to the attorneys to incorporate into the loan agreement. Because, you know, people come in and say, I'm going to build a building in 18 months. Or if you don't start it for 17 months, I shouldn't have to wait the default year. Right? I mean, you get what I'm saying. But yet, nobody gets that. So complying with schedules, complying with budgets, specialty line items, these are all things you need to convey to legal counsel. Now, generally, title, insurance, we leave up to the lawyers, but you need to review that as well because there are always specialty situations which you may have uncovered, which you need to convey to counsel. At the end of all of this, no matter how fancy anybody in the MBA world tells you, you're coming up with a best guess as to whether to recommend to move forward or not move forward. Now, that is in 25 minutes, a quick summary of due diligence. It's something that's a combination of art and science. Whereas, by the way, the originator is all art, no science. It's not expected to be science. If he had to do a deeper dive, he'd only be able to do one deal a year, right? Or she had to do, that's what due diligence is for. So, at the conclusion, due diligence is the last line of defense before we let the money out the door. My first loan document was that big, 1980. Now they're this big. So what's a due diligence guy to do? Your job is to see the key items on the exit strategy, the key items in your findings of due diligence are incorporated in the documents. Interface with the lawyer. Where's the exit strategy? Where's this compliance issue? Where is that? At the end of the day, the documents don't protect you. The due diligence process doesn't protect you, but it starts and it lays a foundation for the asset manager to protect you. So that's due diligence.